Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Omar Khalid. But today, as we've been doing since the last couple of days, we are going to highlight the visit of our Premier Shahbaz Shareef Sahab to the People's Republic of China. It has been a very important visit, a very lucrative one as far as enhancing the relationship between the two countries. Pakistan and China have been time-tested friends. Iron brothers is what a lot of people call us. Nevertheless, China has proven time and again that it has Pakistan's back whenever Pakistan has needed it, one way or the other, whether it be at the FATF, whether it be on different international fora, by siding with Pakistan on important regional, international and national issues. China is that friend that one would always want to have, and our Premier Shahbaz Shareef Sahab has the unique opportunity also to have been invited by his Chinese counterpart Li Keqiang to come to the People's Republic of China after the third time nomination of President Xi Jinping as the head of the People's Republic of China after the 20th CPC. Now, the fact remains that the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is one of the highlights as far as the relationship between the both countries is concerned, and that is what Pakistan also wants, a robust economic relationship and partnership between Pakistan and China. That and much more were discussed during the important meetings that were held in China between Pakistan and the Chinese leadership. More in the following report.
Prime Minister Shahbaz Shareef is on a maiden two-day visit to China with eventual aim of deepening ironclad friendship and revitalizing flagship projects. During bilateral meeting between Chinese President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Shahbaz Shareef, the two leaders agreed to strengthen the strategic partnership between Islamabad and Beijing, as well as multilateral cooperation in various areas, including the CPEC. During the meeting, the Chinese President and Prime Minister Shahbaz Shareef discussed broad-based cooperation in economy and investment and exchanged views on regional and global developments. Later in the day, Prime Minister Shahbaz met Chinese investors and businessmen, where he encouraged Chinese investment in renewable energy projects, including the government's 10,000 megawatt solar project and wind power turbines. Leading Chinese companies demonstrated keen interest to invest in Pakistan's solar, water and other infrastructure projects, as Prime Minister assured outstanding security arrangements for Chinese workers. Premier Shahbaz Shareef also met Chinese Premier Li Keqiang at Great Hall of the People, where Prime Minister was accorded Guard of Honor. Bilateral understanding was reached to unlock economic potential of CPEC, which renders Pakistan as the fulcrum of regional integration. Amid growing challenges in the world, the visit will deepen the ironclad friendship between the two countries, which will also push the flagship China-Pakistan Economic Corridor under the Belt and Road Initiative to a new high level.
To highlight this very important visit and of course a robust relationship that exists between the two friendly countries and how that is going to move forward in the right direction due to this visit of our Premier Shahbaz Shareef Sahab to the People's Republic of China, we've been joined by three guests. Online, we have Dr. Salma Malik, who's a foreign affairs expert. Dr. Salma, it's a pleasure to have you. It's always a healthy discussion that we have on strategic and foreign relations whenever you are here. And in the studios, we've got two very interesting guests with whom I've had an excellent interaction in the past as well. On my right is Khalid Taimoor, Akram Sahab, Executive Director of PRCCSF. Thank you very much, Khalid Sahab. It's a pleasure. And our second guest is Dr. Farah Naz, who's an international relations expert. Dr. Farah, always a pleasure as well. And to see the both of you together in the studios is indeed an excellent opportunity to discuss important issues. Let's begin with you, Dr. Salma Malik. Dr. Salma Malik, when the Premier went to the People's Republic of China, he was one of the first leaders who was invited after the 20th CPC and of course Xi Jinping being elected for a very third time. What significance is there in the fact that Pakistan's leadership was the first to have been invited, and what does that bode as far as the signaling that is being given to the global important leaders?
Right. Thank you so much, Omar. It's always an honor to be part of your program and be here as a guest. The point that you have just raised, the 20th Congress, and the fact that so many decades have gone by, and in Pakistan and China's friendship stands as deep and as strong as ever, vouches for the fact that China places a lot of premier to Pakistan's friendship and the relations that they have nurtured. Pakistan stood by China when it was a country nobody really thought much about, except for the fact that it was a liability for the world. And how China grew up in all these 7+ decades is nothing less of a miracle. And China or the Chinese leadership has always acknowledged Pakistan's contribution, Pakistan standing by it at a time when there was nobody supporting China's cause. Pakistan not only recognized and appreciated the Chinese leadership for the merit of what they were doing, but also that Pakistan, time and again, whether it was the Nixon moment, it was recognition at the UN, and several other things, PIA's maiden flight to China when there were not even any navigational maps for the air corridors, etc., are things that China deeply values. And the very fact that our Prime Minister went there and he was given this opportunity speaks for the value China places on Pakistan's role, position throughout these long decades. But at the same time, we also need to acknowledge that many times people take this friendship for granted when they say that the CPEC is not progressing. It is going to be 2023 is going to be a significant year for the CPEC, but we also need to recognize that such mega projects do not develop overnight, and there is always going to be an easy or an uneasy tango where there's going to be one step forward, two step backwards, or a matching of the steps. China's speed of carrying out things is very different from Pakistan. Pakistan needs to match up with that speed or at least go halfway. So there are going to be some difficulties matching the pace between the two countries, but both the countries recognize the impediments, the difficulties, the challenges, and they are more than willing to move forward with all those challenges as part of the package deal and not let go of that deep friendship that has culminated in the CPAC, which is just one aspect of this deep friendship that these two countries enjoy.
That is so important, and the key word that I take from this, one of the keywords, is making pace, and that is what I'm going to ask you, Khalid, Taimoor, Akram Saab. When you talk of the relationship between Pakistan and China, as Dr. Salma, Malik said, a lot of people take that for granted, and we need to make the right moves with the right energy in order to make China understand that we are moving at par with them as far as the robust relationship between the two countries is concerned. CPEC is a very important topic. A lot of questions were raised in the past as far as the way CPEC was moving forward. But now, of course, there's a huge, how should I say, robust or turbo speed that has been now put to different projects in the second phase of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. That green and clean energy, two important aspects that were discussed during the visit of Premier Shahbaz Shareef Saab to China. What do you foresee as far as A, CPEC, and B, clean and green energy projects that have been discussed in detail and a lot of enthusiasm has been seen from the Chinese side is concerned?
Yeah, thank you very much. And I feel that it's really an honor for our Prime Minister and for the Pakistani government that we were the first one to be invited to China after the grand 20th CPC Congress, in which President Xi Jinping got elected for the third consecutive term as the General Secretary. And after that, that just happened 1 week back, and Prime Minister Shahbaz Shareef is the first head of the state and head of the government who visited China. So it speaks of the volumes of importance which the Chinese government and especially President Xi Jinping gives to Pakistan. As regards to CPEC is concerned, yes, the Chinese government in the past had some concerns regarding the pace of the CPEC, but as we know that this word Shahbaz speed was given to Prime Minister Shahbaz Shareef by the Chinese people who were working with him in Punjab once he was the Chief Minister. So the Chinese government has got a fair knowledge of the speed of Prime Minister Shahbaz Shareef, the way he is basically a very good administrator, the way he had been administrating the projects, the CPEC projects in Punjab. So one, they are very happy with the pace which now the government has adopted. Two, yes, China has included many new projects in the CPEC, and they really want to connect Central and South Asia together, and China has agreed to extend CPEC towards Afghanistan, and which ultimately will be connecting Central Asia to Pakistan and to Gwadar port. Another thing very important, as you said, clean energy. Yes, China has done away with the coal power plants, and they also want Pakistan to do away with that, and once we will be doing away with the coal power, so China will be helping us in the development of more nuclear power plants or hydropower plants. China is very much enthusiastic in the development of the Diamir Bhasha Dam, and our Prime Minister has given them assurance not only on the security but also the problems facing in the land acquisition and other things. In addition to that, our Prime Minister and President Xi Jinping, they have agreed that all the CPEC project will be finished, and the first phase, which is likely to finish up by 2025, will be on time. And I'm sure that with this visit, I'm sure the Chinese government must have got the taste of the speed which Prime Minister Shahbaz Shareef is working. And I consider it as a very, very successful visit, and even the protocol, because we know there's a new surge of COVID in China, and normally they do not give the guard of honors and all those things to the foreign visitors.
Our Premier was given one.
Our Premier was given a special guard of honor just to acknowledge the friendship between Pakistan and China. And I think China has given a very clear message to our adversaries and to rest of the world that how much importance China gives to Pakistan.
I think the messaging is very important. The whole timing of it and the messaging of it all, that China is telling to the whole world, listen, Pakistan, we have its back, come what may, you can do whatever you want, but we'll always side by Pakistan. Dr. Farah Naz, geostrategic, geopolitical developments in the region, whether it be the Ukraine-Russia war, whether it be what's happening in Afghanistan and the trickling down of terrorist elements, whether it be other elements in the area, and whether it be the tensions between the United States of America and China, and the making of political blocs like the Quad, like the AUKUS, that are surely going to prove to be not a deal maker for the West, but it's going to make clear and divided lines between different quarters of the world. Where and how does Pakistan and China stand here in all of these changes that are rapidly happening across the world, this political geostrategic divide that is happening, and how important now is for Pakistan and China to stand as one together?
Well, while listening to you, both of you, I think 2023 is going to witness another series of need for speed. And I think CPEC is something that is to show that how speed is very essential and important. At a stage when the geopolitics is rapidly shaping up and it's quickly evolving, where we can see, as you mentioned, the Quad is there, where we can see there is information coming up about that America says, I don't need Pakistan to negotiate with the Taliban. So are they really looking up to someone else? I will not be shying away from saying that they probably are looking up towards India for having negotiations with the Taliban. So in that kind of environment where there's a lot of tensions developing up, not only here in South Asia, but in the rest of the world as well, and that is the Russia-Ukraine context, where there is a lot of problems going to be emerging, and the world is going to face a lot of security concerns, food security, human security, and a lot of that. In that evolving geopolitical situation and pressures and tensions, this meeting is, I think, a clear signaling that China will not step back from Pakistan, will support its friend, because it is not only in the best interest of Pakistan, but China as well. And for China, CPEC project is very important and very essential. It is crucial, and China can do anything to make it a success. We have seen in the past 4 years, the speed that we're talking about, the pace of the project was a bit slowed down. I think this is time to pace it up, and we have no other options than pacing it up. China and Pakistan both have to work together, as I have seen that the reports coming up that China is going to send its experts here to accelerate it and to work more towards, making it a successful plan and to get it done in the shortest period of time. They are aware of the threats that are coming to their way. They're aware of whatever has happened in terms of security breaches and all of that. I think they will make sure to overcome all those problems that both of them, Pakistan and China, were facing to make it a success. And in this environment, I think extending CPAC to Afghanistan is a big thing. It's not something that should be, brushed under the carpet. Opening this corridor to Central Asia and then from Central Asia to the rest of the world, I think this is really a big thing. Through CPEC project and all of that, this is something, a connectivity. And already establishing an order within the bigger order of the world is not probably going to be acceptable to the global powers. I think the challenges that China and Pakistan were facing in the past, they probably will multiply it in the future as well. Because the more they want to accelerate it, the other forces...
The more will there be impediments to all of this?
There will be retaliation as well. So I think it's depending on both the countries, whatever arrangements they're both coming up with to make it a success, they need to come up with a larger plan.
All right.
And in that plan, they should look into the security concerns, the energy concerns, climate concerns and all of those.
All right.
I believe the Prime Minister should have spoken about the climate change and its atrocities and all, because Pakistan has witnessed floods and all of that. I believe he should have discussed that in China.
I'm sure that was one of the major points of discussion. Dr. Salma, Malik, one of the points that were highlighted by Dr. Farah Naz was on security. Now, security, I think, is paramount whenever it comes to a relationship between two people, two organizations or two countries. Let's talk about the security of Chinese workers. The Prime Minister has assured that the Chinese workers will be given the due security, and we've seen the incidents in the past as well that have targeted Chinese workers, deliberate targeting, so as to create a disharmony between China and Pakistan. Then there is the security apparatus that is trickling in, security challenges that are trickling in through Afghanistan directly and indirectly in the form of ETIM and in the form of TTP and others. Will this security issue be a challenge for both Pakistan and China in the future if they want to accelerate CPEC? Because when you want to accelerate a project, there are always those who do not want that to happen. I think there is some kind of a technical issue with Dr. Salma Malik. We can't get hold of her. We will definitely talk to her about this. So I'm going to revert this question to Khalid, Taimoor, Akram. Khalid, Taimoor, Akram sir, what do you feel of security issues that both countries have seen in the past? Pakistan has seen as far as the Chinese workers are concerned. But, well, let me revert back to Dr. Salma Malik, who has now joined us back. Dr. Salma Malik, did you hear the question that I had asked you?
Yes, I got your question. Omar, I would say that this is a challenge for every country, and we cannot brush it away. I mean, we really have to look at, when we look at the good part of the CPEC as to how it is going to help Pakistan's economy. But we all need to come to this consensus that where we look at a comprehensive security model, where the military and all of those things were always a very important aspect. Economics going to help your external, internal defense, security, everything. And the main point that you have alluded to, the security of Chinese workers in Pakistan or security of the Chinese assets in Pakistan, the various infrastructural development projects that they are working on, their machinery, various other things, that is something which has now become one of the top most soft targets for people who want to retard for all of those powers who do not want the CPEC to become a shining model of the BRI and all of that stuff. But rhetoric aside, we really need to see what our adversaries would get out of this situation. It would retard.
All right, there seems to be some kind of a technical glitch due to which we are constantly losing touch of Dr. Salma. Malik. Khalid, Taimoor, Akram Saab, in your point of view, what kind of practical steps now that another ground has been laid down as far as the relationship between Pakistan and China is concerned after the visit of Shahbaz Shareef Saab, and now he's on his way back, of course, from China to Pakistan. What practical steps can both China and Pakistan take to open a new window of opportunity for both the countries as far as manufacturing and supply chain networking is concerned in this new arena of global geostrategy? We see that lacking.
Yes, that's a quite interesting question, because another year or so we will be entering into the second phase of the CPAC, and in fact the complete BRI project which China has started, it has now expanded to almost 181 countries. So the completion time is by 2030, but for CPAC the tentative completion time is by 2025. So what next? The next is basically development of the special economic zones, bringing various industries close to the Indian Ocean, which means that since we are in the region vis-a-vis the Central Asia and the landlocked countries, so we are the nearest to the Arabian Sea. So a lot of industry will be shifted from China and Central Asia to this part of the world in Pakistan, and the special economic zones will get developed. So we will see, we have already witnessed that in last 20 years a lot of European industry has shifted to China because of cheap labor, cheap raw material. So that industry is likely to shift towards Pakistan, and China also wants that the neighboring countries of China should be benefited from the bigger industry which has already shifted from European side to this place. So now the Europeans and the other countries will also have their stakes in the security of Pakistan, because we have been constantly telling the world about whatever we have been facing since last 20 years. So once the international brands, they will have their factories over here, so their countries will automatically have their attention towards us. And let me also remind you over here that Pakistan is the only country in the world which has overcome complete terrorism, which has done their counter-terrorism without any foreign boots on ground. Take the example of Sri Lanka, take the example of African countries. Everywhere UN forces have been going there to establish law and order in the terrorism, but we have done away with terrorism with our own military and with our own forces. We have given maximum lives. More than 80,000 plus soldiers and civilians have got shahadat in this in the counter-terrorism. So what I feel is this: in coming days, Pakistan's geostrategic value will be increasing. We are seeing that a lot of Chinese automobile industry coming towards Pakistan. We are seeing that a lot of, in times to come, we will see that even the Central Asians are interested to invest in Pakistan, because they see Pakistan as their window towards the warm waters. And I've been talking to various countries in Central Asia, and they always give one very interesting example. They say that we are not close to the Arabian Sea or the Indian Ocean, but the railway line which is being now made
ML1
from ML1 and extending till Uzbekistan also.
There's also the Karachi Circular Railway Project.
And Karachi Circular Railway Project. So they see, the Central Asian countries see this railway line as their Arabian Sea, because this railway line is ultimately going to connect through Afghanistan with the Central Asia. So for them, this railway line is the their seaport is this railway line, because it will connect them with this. So I see that now as we are entering on in the second phase, so Pakistan's importance in terms of not only geostrategic but the industrial towards the industrial development side, our importance is going to increase manifolds.
All right. This in all of this manifold increase of Pakistan's geostrategic or geopolitical or geoeconomic positioning in the region, Comes the Afghanistan that you've discussed, and I'd like to add a little bit to it. Prime Minister Shahbaz Shareef Saab and Chinese President Xi Jinping discussed the situation in Afghanistan as well as Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Do you feel this visit has had some kind of an impact as far as the Chinese diplomatic backing that has always been there for Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir is concerned, and also Pakistan's stance as far as Afghanistan is concerned? Because if the CPEC has to extend to Afghanistan, we need to have a stable Afghanistan.
Exactly. I think this meeting, why called in at this hour where it was when it was not open for any other country but Pakistan, I think this was for strong signaling that whatever you do in Afghanistan, we are watching you. And for the successful implementation of the CPEC project and all, they need to have a stable Afghanistan. Without a stable Afghanistan, nothing is possible here. I think the messaging is quite clear. It is loud and clear, in fact. And I think now Pakistan stands on Kashmir and then China's back of Pakistan. I think that's also been made clear to our neighbors. And I think there was a lot of discussion going on that probably they're going to host a very essential and important conference here in Jammu and Kashmir, which was really taken anti by the Pakistani government. Probably that signaling was this signaling was very essential for that particular program as well that they were trying to hold in Kashmir. So altogether, I think this meeting was very crucial.
What about Afghanistan? Do you feel that both countries can work together to make Afghanistan a stable environment for the CPEC to be extended there?
They can. China has a potential to work towards, because China is always peaceful. China never ever get engaged in its history in any sort of conflict unless and until somebody really come to their house and says, let's have a war. So I think history has proven that China is never hostile. China believes in progress through economic empowerment, economic development, projects and all of that. And CPEC projects will set a very different example for the world, that if you want to do something for developing countries or countries with instability, give them something that they can build upon.
That's
their
true.
own capabilities, rather than being there and holding their strengths for 20 years or 30 years or 40 years and not letting them do their business themselves, not providing them skill sets. I think this was a disaster that Afghan people have been facing for 40 years of their time. With this CPEC project, probably they will have much more opportunities.
I think economic stability brings in political stability as well.
Exactly.
I think both are interrelated.
Money is power. Without money, you can't do anything.
I will take you to this word. I think that's a very important term. And Dr. Salma, Malik, coming to you, I have one or two important questions to ask you, because with you it's always very interesting to understand the foreign policy perspective, as it is with Khalid Saab and Dr. Farah. China managed the COVID pandemic very successfully, but now there's a little resurgence there. Do you feel both countries can also cooperate as far as the health sector is concerned? And do you feel Pakistan can learn from China's experience, A, in health challenges, and B, as far as food security is concerned? Because these two are very important challenges that could be confronted by other countries in the region, including Pakistan, in the coming years.
Absolutely, Omar. In fact, as of yesterday, we need to start thinking about food security, especially, and non-traditional security challenges, health, food, etc., especially after 2-3 major things that have affected Pakistan. Number one, of course, are the recent floods. Number two is the Ukrainian war, which majority of Pakistanis consider that it is not something of our concern, but it is something that is going to, if it is not affecting us immediately, but those who are in the power corridors know what the repercussions of the Ukrainian conflict is, but it is going to be something that is going to affect us in the near future. And that effect is going to be quite big. So we really need to work with China on these aspects. And for those of us who have been to Gawada, they must have seen that China has this huge lab in which it is looking at all the food grains and various other things that Pakistani agricultural sector is producing. And the US has a grain bank They have a seed bank way up in the cold ices, and China is doing the same, because tomorrow all of these things are going to be of immense value and of immense power. And unfortunately, in Pakistan, the trend has been that of developing real estate, and this real estate phenomenon
Very
is
important point.
very, very strongly affecting the food basket that Pakistan had, that entire corridor where Pakistan's food security was ensured from. So we have to get in collaboration with China to look at all of these aspects and protect our future agricultural needs, and also learn from them the best practices through which we can grow these aspects. And a point that Dr. Farah was saying, and you also alluded to, that not only is economy the power, the knowledge is also a great power. And unless and until there is a solid investment in infrastructural development, we will just barely survive. What we require from the CPEC and this collaboration, which is coming at a very high cost for everyone involved, what we technically require is a strong, robust, thriving economy in the future, and not something where we keep on referring back to the various bailout packages and the global blackmailing tactics through which the economy keeps on going through this seesaw effect, and the ECG goes bad. But technically, Pakistan's investment in these 10 long years of CPEC, which is going to culminate in the next year. So we need to review what we plan to do, how we are going to benefit from it. We just can't take it for granted that it is a roads infrastructure through which, when the road develops, the people will, and that's the literal sense that we have around the CPEC. There is a huge big road through which we can travel across Pakistan. No, it is far more than that. The connectivity requires a lot of things: intra country connectivity, intra regional connectivity, inter regional connectivity, and we need to take the CPEC very, very seriously, which is going to also ensure all of these deficiencies that Pakistan faces today and going to face in the future. And the way China dealt with the pandemic, we need to discipline ourselves with regards such future emergencies, preempt them, understand how to not let such disasters or complex emergencies affect us, because we are a huge population, and we take a lot of things on oral value, and we take a lot of things as something which is given by providence. We need to understand that the world is moving at a very different pace, and the future is in our hand today, and we cannot lose out on such an opportunity.
Exactly, and we need to make the best of it, Dr. Salma Malik, which brings
Absolutely.
me to an associated question. What are the key characteristics, in your point of view, that Pakistan can learn from the Chinese development model for inclusive and sustainable growth, socio-economic development, and improvement of our people's livelihoods?
Well, number one, of course, is having a very clear vision and the will to articulate and implement that vision. Once the Chinese set on a particular idea, they totally remain true to it, they remain honest to it, and they implement it. And there has to be a very disciplined approach towards doing those things. And I would also say, Omar, that what we have learned from our interaction with great powers in the past, with the US and now with China, and for a very brief period in the past with Russia or the Soviet Union, was the emphasis on solid infrastructural development. When you develop the type of infrastructure which the Chinese are also focusing on, that provides you with that zone of employment and opportunity. That also provides that space for startups. Tomorrow's world is about IT, it is about ideas, and the Chinese are very good with that. So we need to also learn how to harness those ideas. I mean, here is the world of Facebooks, iPhones, and so many other things. And at parallel, China has managed to not only develop a very robust IT structure, it has managed to develop an entirely alternate world to what the West is providing. and they're thriving in that. So we need to master this art as to how you turn your adversaries into opportunities, your challenges into something shining. And for that, I totally admire the Chinese discipline. And if we can manage that clarity of vision and discipline ourselves into doing what we need to do for our country, I don't think there's going to be anything that is going to hold us back.
Or that's a very, very important point, and I think all the parties involved are paying due heed to it. Khalid Saab, when you talk of going forward and making the best of this opportunity, because of course we need to do that, there is also the fact that there is a certain demand in the Chinese market, and for that we need to also train our youth, because Pakistan is in a huge majority as far as our youth is concerned. Do you feel we need to also go on a fast foot planning as far as training our youth is concerned in the right directions for the fields that are needed by China, so as to A, create more job opportunities for the Pakistan youth, and B, strengthen our economy?
Yes, that's quite an interesting question, because I go a lot in various universities in Pakistan and I hear this question that what's in it for us once we talk about CPAC, and I always try to tell the youth and everybody that CPAC has got various stages. Now we are going through the stage of construction. So at this point in time, we need skilled labor, skilled manpower like engineers and others to build up this infrastructure.
And we also need people who understand the Chinese language.
Understand the Chinese language. And now once we are going to go to the second stage, we need a service industry, because in Pakistan we do not understand the implication of having a strong service industry. We have to have more hotels, we have to have more tourism, we have to have more people who can deal with town planning, we have to have more people who understand how to build up an industrial area. So the service industry is the next, and the third phase is once the industrialization and other things will start, then other things would come. One, right now there is no system in our universities where the youth can be guided, and I would strongly suggest that the government and at the HEC level some kind of the guidelines should be issued so that our youth can be trained in that way. And another thing we must understand is this, that once the CPAC projects will start in Pakistan, then the competition of our youth will not be among themselves. They will be competing with the international market. So we must understand what is the requirement of the international market. If you go to any European countries, even to China or into Central Asia, over there you would find 19 and 20 years boys and girls working in various companies, getting knowledge of various companies. But in our country the trend is, okay, let's finish the education first and then go to the practical field. But once these people will be competing against the youth of various countries, so they would lag behind. So we need to change our curriculums in a way. Yes, Chinese language is one, but complete Central Asia, they speak their own languages and Russian language. So we need to establish multiple languages center in Pakistan. Also, we are very far behind in our lawfare, because we must understand this thing that all the countries who will be connecting through this CPAC, they have a completely different legal system, because we were previously part of the British colonial system, and all our laws which were made from 1947 till now more or less have some kind of impact from the British laws. But in Central Asia, in China, in those parts of the world which are going to get connected through CPAC, they have a completely different legal system. They have a completely different arbitration system, because they were a part of the Soviet Union. So we must understand their laws, we must understand that what
and
kind
adapt
of
ourselves accordingly.
And adopt ourselves accordingly, because here the situation is quite interesting, that those 10 countries would not be adopting our laws because they will be using Pakistan as a transit country. So one major advantage which we are going to have very soon is that we will be the major transit hub of the world. So all those countries who are the major transit hub, what they have to do. One, you have to build lots of hotels. Second, you have to build your strong service industry. Third, you have to train your manpower to adopt the cultural shock which they will be facing once the people of so many countries and the trade line would start off. So we have to prepare our generation for that in terms of legal, in terms of financial. Right now we do not have any banking channels with these countries. We need to understand their banking system. We need to have a strong financial system with these countries. Right now Uzbekistan and Tajikistan are just our next door neighbors, but we are doing all our trade through third country because there is no
so there needs to be evolution of different mechanisms that Pakistan is involved in order for it to create a more robust relationship with all the countries involved, all the partners involved, including of course China, as far as the future of CPEC is concerned. Final question, Dr. Farah Naz, US-China, US-India, Pakistan-China, Pakistan-US, India-China. This is a very interesting but a very complicated relationship. Do you feel that Pakistan can juggle it out between its relationship with the US and that with China? We've heard the US saying that it has no issues whatsoever, but of course it has made India the focal point of this region. This said, can Pakistan have a healthy, robust relationship with the US at the same time going forward with the CPEC and other important projects with China? Your take.
Pakistan has all the right to choose its friends based on its national interest. If America offers Pakistan anything that Pakistan can improve its economic development and all, why not? If it's China, why not? India, why not? But if they are putting restrictions on Pakistan and pushing them to an extent that if you get closer to this country, I will do this and that with you, that is not acceptable. This is 21st century. Every state has the right to build on their resources, to build on the problems that they face within their country, get stabilized, let its people enjoy the perks and privileges that any other country in the world is having and enjoying. In all of this, we can easily get adjusted with Americans because we know their culture, we know their language, we know the way we work with them for decades and decades. With India and all, we know because we were a part of that in the past. When it comes to China, when you were discussing how to get along with it, we have to understand their culture first. We need to understand how Chinese people think, how they act, what they expect, what are their work ethics, how they want their work to be done. I think we lag in there. So we need to work on that. NUST is trying to build on this cultural deficiencies that we are facing here, Chinese cultural deficiencies. NUST, through its Chinese Research Center, they are trying to work on how to incorporate the Chinese culture into the mainstream system and then educating the youth about it, making them immune to it, getting adapted to it, and then learning about it. I was in the West, I've been enjoying all those Chinese festivals, let's call it Noodle Festival and all. We being so close to China, we never conduct such kind of festivals here. Chinese New Year, we never celebrate. I doubt why. We are the closest friends, we are iron brothers. There's definitely
we need to show China that the relationship, the cooperation goes much beyond. There's a genuine friendship, there's a genuine regard for each other and for each other's culture and tradition as well. I think that is something that needs to be highlighted in the community.
And I think it's not only need to be highlighted at policy level, but at street level as well.
People to people.
Unless and until we bring it to the society, we cannot say who we are, what we want to do, how we want to progress. We know the way Americans and Brits and all other communities, we have been dressing up like them. I'm not saying that we should dress up like China, but the thing is, give some respect to them. If you are looking up to something, having economic empowerment, building on so many projects and looking forward towards your future, your resources.
Like in any couple, like in any family, there needs to be a mutual understanding in order to build a solid relationship.
And there should be
even further that solid relationship that we have, for example, like with China. Dr. Farah Naz, I have to cut you short. We are very, very short of time, but I have to ask this very last comment, but a short answer from you, Dr. Salma, Malik, but I hope we could have had a longer answer. The Pakistan-China axis inspires greater international cooperation. It helps the region break this vicious cycle of deprivation and conflict. What's your take on that?
Absolutely, it does. It definitely will. But there are going to be several challenges, both internal as well as external, and the external challenges would be much higher, coming from our immediate neighborhood, India, and moving all across the type of connection that is building, the new Cold War that is evolving. And we have to be mindful of all these challenges and stay together to overcome them and have the type of infrastructural strength to withstand these challenges. And if at this point it seems to be an infrastructural problem, in future it's going to be also militaristic. So we have to be quite wary of the type of future that we are going to face when the CPEC becomes more implementable and goes beyond this build-up phase to implementable phase.
I think that's a very important point, and it's a very important point to end my show with. Pakistan and China, ladies and gentlemen, are moving towards a more robust relationship through the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. China regards Pakistan as a true friend. Pakistan regards China as a true friend, and China has had Pakistan's back many a times, and Pakistan has always looked up to China in good and the bad times. This is the time when that relationship is going to take a turn for the better. A lot of questions arise, a lot of challenges arise as well, and I hope both Pakistan and China can come up to these challenges and can show the world that together we can make the world and the region a stronger, a better, a more robust place to live in. And for the peoples as well who are facing economic deprivation, they can come out of it if there is the will and the possibilities that a project like the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor gives to the people in Pakistan, in China, and all the regions that want to collaborate in it. Thank you so very much, Dr. Salma, Malik. Thank you very much, Khalid, Taimoor, Akram Saab. Thank you very much, Dr. Farah Naz, to have been here. It was indeed a great show that I had today. It was a great interaction, a very healthy discussion on different aspects of it, and that is what it is. We throw you the questions, ladies and gentlemen. We throw you the points through the different discussions. It's up to you to interpret it, and it's up to you to imbibe whatever you can and talk about it. You know, it is through discussion that we build a healthier, a stronger, a more vibrant society, and with China we can exactly do that. Allah Hafiz.